What if the murderer was standing right there, watching everyone accuse the wrong person? On a luxury steamer sailing down the Nile, a millionaire is found dead in his cabin, with a mysterious theater ticket beside his body. Everyone has a motive. Everyone has a secret. But when Hercule Poirot discovers that the murder scene itself is a lie, he realizes something terrifying. The killer is not trying to escape. He's still aboard the ship, preparing his next move, and the next victim may already know the truth. Chapter 1. The stage is set. The SS Aurelia was the perfect stage for tragedy. Elegant, luxurious, and silent beneath the Egyptian stars, the great steamer moved slowly along the Nile, its polished brass shining beneath warm electric lamps. Silk gowns rustled across the promenade deck, crystal glasses chimed softly, and the distant piano in the lounge played a graceful melody. Every passenger appeared content, every conversation pleasant, every smile perfectly placed. But beneath the elegance, something darker was waiting. At 10 o'clock precisely, a scream tore through the ship. A champagne glass shattered, footsteps thundered along the corridor. Then came silence. In the private suite of Sir Julian Vale, one of Britain's wealthiest industrialists, the millionaire lay dead beside his writing desk. A silver letter opener was buried in his chest, and beside his unfinished champagne stood a single white theatre ticket. The police saw murder. Hercule Poirot saw a performance. Poirot had been sitting quietly in the observation lounge when the disturbance began. His evening clothes were immaculate, his magnificent moustache perfectly arranged, and his small black shoes polished to a mirror-like shine. He listened to the footsteps. One pair rushed toward Sir Julian's cabin. Another seemed to disappear in the opposite direction. Poirot slowly placed his coffee cup upon its saucer. "Ah," he murmured, "the drama begins." When Poirot entered the suite, the smell of sandalwood cologne, cigar smoke, furniture wax, and fresh lilies filled the warm room. A small fire crackled in the marble fireplace, while beyond the open balcony doors, the cool night air moved the velvet curtains. Inspector Hassan stood near the body. "Sir Julian Vale," he said quietly. "Dead perhaps 20 minutes. Poirot looked at him. "Perhaps. The doctor is examining him. Then we shall wait for certainty." Poirot did not immediately examine the corpse. Instead, he studied the room. The polished mahogany desk, the crystal champagne glass, the fountain pen, 3 envelopes, the fireplace, and the theatre ticket. He approached the desk. The ticket was printed in gold lettering. "The Royal Theatre, Cairo." Poirot's eyebrows lifted. "Sir Julian attended the theatre tonight?" "No," Inspector Hassan replied. "His secretary says he remained aboard." "Then why is this ticket here?" Hassan frowned. "I don't know." Poirot smiled. "Neither do I. But someone wished us to see it." Behind them, a woman gave a soft cry. Poirot turned. She was Eleanor Vale, Sir Julian's young wife. She wore an elegant silk evening gown and a diamond necklace. Her dark hair was perfectly arranged, though one strand had fallen across her cheek. Her hand trembled as she pressed a white handkerchief to her lips. "Julian," she whispered. "My poor Julian." Poirot watched her carefully. She dabbed at her eyes, but there were no tears. The handkerchief remained completely dry. Poirot said nothing. "The mask slips. Did you catch it?" Eleanor looked at him. "What did you say?" "Nothing, madame." He smiled politely. The room was beginning to resemble a theatre, and every person inside it had been assigned a role. Marcus Vale, Sir Julian's nephew and heir, stood near the fireplace. He was tall, handsome, and visibly angry. "This is impossible," he said. "Who would want Uncle Julian dead?" Poirot studied him. "You are his heir." Marcus stiffened. "Yes. Then his death changes your future considerably." Marcus stared at him. "Are you accusing me?" "Not at all." Poirot adjusted his sleeve. "I am merely observing the performance." Marcus looked confused. Inspector Hassan intervened. "Mr. Vale says he was in the smoking room when the murder occurred." "Alone?" "Yes." Poirot glanced at the ashtray. There was one cigar. Marcus had claimed he had smoked two. Poirot noticed. He did not comment. Not yet. Lady Beatrice Langford sat beside the window. She was an elegant woman in black velvet, with emerald earrings and a composed expression. "You were close to Sir Julian?" Poirot asked. "For many years. Did you love him?" Her eyes moved briefly toward the body. "Yes." Poirot watched her face. For the smallest instant, something resembling a smile appeared. Then it vanished. "Interesting," Poirot murmured. Lady Beatrice frowned. "What is?" "Nothing, madame. Dr. Adrian Bell, the ship's physician, was next. I was attending another passenger," he explained. "I was nowhere near Sir Julian's cabin." "From what time?" 9:30 until 10:15. "Anyone confirm this?" "The steward." Poirot nodded. "Excellent." The final important member of the group was Charles Pembroke, Sir Julian's private secretary. He was a quiet, thin man in his 40s, dressed in a dark dinner jacket. "When did you last see Sir Julian alive?" Poirot asked. 9:45. "Was he alone?" "Yes." "Was anything troubling him?" Pembroke hesitated. "He had received a letter." Poirot's eyes sharpened. "What letter?" "I don't know." "Did you see it?" "No." "Then how do you know?" Pembroke swallowed. "Sir Julian told me." Poirot turned toward the desk. 3 envelopes rested there. One was unopened, one had been emptied, the third was missing. Then Poirot noticed something else. The fireplace. A half-burned piece of paper lay among the ashes. He crouched beside it. The paper smelled faintly of smoke and perfume. He did not touch it. Someone wanted this letter destroyed. Inspector Hassan stepped closer. "Can we recover anything?" "Perhaps." Poirot stood. "Whoever burned it was in a hurry." "How do you know?" Poirot pointed toward the fireplace. "The paper is only partially burned. A careful person would have waited." He looked around the room. "Fear makes people careless." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the clock outside the suite began to chime. 1, 2, 3. The suspects listened. 4, 5, 6. Poirot's eyes moved from face to face. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The final chime faded. Poirot smiled faintly. "Inspector, there is already a problem with the timeline." "What problem?" "Someone has lied about the time." Everyone became still. Eleanor lowered her eyes. Marcus clenched his jaw. Lady Beatrice touched one emerald earring. Pembroke looked toward the door. Poirot saw all of it. "Ah," he said softly, "now the theatre becomes interesting." He walked toward the corridor. "Tomorrow, we shall conduct the interviews." Inspector Hassan followed him. "And tonight," Poirot glanced back at the 6 people standing beneath the chandelier. "Tonight, mon ami, we allow the actors to return to their rooms." He paused. "Let them believe they have performed successfully." A faint smile appeared beneath his magnificent moustache. "Tomorrow, we shall see who forgets their lines." Outside, the SS Aurelia continued its journey through the darkness of the Nile. The warm lights reflected across the black water, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of the piano began again. But the music no longer sounded romantic. It sounded like an opening theme. The stage was set, the players had assembled, and somewhere among them, The murderer was preparing for the next act. Let the drama begin. Chapter 2. Enter the players. Morning arrived quietly upon the Nile, but aboard the SS Aurelia there was no peace. The sunlight poured through the tall windows of the dining saloon, turning the polished brass fittings golden. The scent of strong continental coffee mingled with fresh lilies, warm toast, and cigarette smoke, while the faint clink of porcelain sounded beneath the quiet conversations. Yet every passenger seemed to be performing the same role, pretending that nothing had happened. Hercule Poirot watched them from his table. He did not eat. He observed. "Ah," he murmured, smoothing an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. "The morning after the murder. Everyone is an actor now." Inspector Hassan approached. "The interviews?" "Yes." Poirot looked across the room. "Let us begin the second act." The first scene was Eleanor Vale. She entered the private sitting room wearing a pale silk dress and carrying a small handbag. Her face was composed, her hair immaculate. Poirot gestured toward the chair. "Please, madame." Eleanor sat. "You must forgive me," she said. "I hardly slept." Poirot looked at her eyes. "No, no. Because you were grieving?" Her lips trembled. "Of course." Poirot nodded. "The performance begins." Eleanor frowned. "Sir Julian was my husband." "Yes, and I loved him." "Perhaps." She stared at him. "Perhaps." Poirot folded his hands. "Tell me about last night." "I was in my cabin until approximately 10 o'clock. Then I heard voices in the corridor. I came out and found Julian." "You were alone?" "Yes." "Did you see anyone?" She hesitated. "Marcus." "Where?" "Near the staircase." "At what time?" "Perhaps 10 minutes after 10. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps. I cannot remember exactly. But yesterday you said 10 o'clock. I was frightened." "Fear," Poirot said gently, "can disturb memory." He leaned back. "But it can also reveal what a person truly remembers." Eleanor looked away. Poirot noticed her right hand. She was twisting the strap of her handbag. "You knew your husband was expecting someone?" "No." "You knew about a letter?" "No." "You knew about the theater ticket?" "No." 3 answers. 3 denials. Poirot smiled. "Very good, madame." "What?" "You have performed innocence very convincingly." Eleanor's face hardened. "I don't understand you." "That is often useful." When she left, Poirot remained silent. Inspector Hassan looked puzzled. "You think she killed him?" "I think she is frightened." "Of Poirot?" "No." Poirot glanced toward the door. "Of what she knows." The second scene belonged to Marcus Vale. He entered with the confidence of a man who believed himself incapable of being intimidated. "I have nothing to hide." Poirot smiled. "Excellent. Then this will be easy." Marcus sat. "You said you were in the smoking room?" "Yes." "Alone?" "Yes." 2 cigars. Marcus paused. "Yes." Poirot gestured toward the ashtray. "Only one was smoked." Marcus stared at him. "I must have forgotten." "Interesting." "I was upset." "Naturally." Marcus shifted in his chair. Poirot watched the movement. "Where did you go after leaving the smoking room?" "To my cabin." "Did anyone see you?" "No." "Then your alibi is alone." Marcus became irritated. "Are you accusing me because I inherit my uncle's fortune?" "No." Poirot leaned forward. "I am interested because you are the person who benefits most." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You cannot arrest someone for being an heir." "No. But you may be surprised how often an inheritance becomes the motive behind a murder." Marcus stood. "Is that all?" "One more question." Marcus stopped. "Did your uncle intend to change his will?" The silence was immediate. Poirot smiled. "Ah? I don't know." "You thought about it." Marcus left without answering. Inspector Hassan exhaled. That was obvious. Yes, but obvious does not mean guilty. Precisely. The third scene was Lady Beatrice Langford. She entered slowly, carrying a cigarette holder. Her perfume filled the room before she spoke. "Do you really believe I had anything to do with Julian's death?" Poirot gestured toward the chair. "I believe nothing yet." She sat. "You were his friend for 30 years. And did you know about his business? Some of it. His enemies. Many. His family." She smiled bitterly. "More complicated." Poirot leaned closer. "Tell me about Eleanor." Lady Beatrice's expression changed. "She married Julian for money. That is a strong statement." "It is true. How do you know?" "I know people." Poirot smiled. "Ah, and people know you." She ignored the question. "Julian was going to leave her." Poirot became still. "Are you certain?" "Yes." "When did you learn this?" "Yesterday." "Before or after his death?" She hesitated. "Before." Poirot's eyes sharpened. "At what time?" "I don't remember." Another uncertain time. Lady Beatrice looked annoyed. "You are obsessed with clocks." "No, madame." Poirot touched his moustache. "I am obsessed with truth. Time merely helps us find it." The fourth scene was Charles Pembroke. He entered carrying a folder. "I have brought Sir Julian's business papers." Poirot did not look at them. Later, Pembroke sat. "You said yesterday that Sir Julian received a letter." "Yes." "Where is it?" "I don't know." "Did you read it?" "No." "Did you destroy it?" "No." Poirot watched his fingers. They were trembling, not dramatically, just slightly. "You are nervous." "Anyone would be." "Yes." Poirot reached for a blank sheet of paper. "Write your name." Pembroke looked surprised. "Why?" "Please," he wrote. Poirot studied the handwriting. Then he looked at the letters on Sir Julian's desk. "Interesting." "What?" "The handwriting is similar." Pembroke's face went pale. "You think I forged something." "I did not say that." "But you implied." "Bravo," Poirot interrupted softly. "You have supplied the accusation yourself." Pembroke stared at him. The mask had slipped, only for a moment, but Poirot had seen it. The fifth scene belonged to Dr. Adrian Bell. The doctor was calm, too calm. "You have been remarkably composed," Poirot observed. "I am a physician. Naturally. I have seen death." "Yes, but this death is different." "Because it is murder?" "Because you knew Sir Julian." Bell looked away. "Everyone knew him." "Did you dislike him?" "I respected him." "That was not my question." The doctor said nothing. Poirot leaned back. "You examined the body?" "Yes." "And you estimated the time of death?" "Approximately 20 minutes before discovery." "Approximately?" "Yes." Poirot smiled. "You all love that word." The doctor frowned. Poirot continued. "Tell me, doctor, what if Sir Julian died earlier?" "Impossible." "Why?" "Because the body showed no indication." "Perhaps." The doctor looked at him. Poirot's green eyes gleamed. "Or perhaps you know exactly when he died because you were there." For the first time, the doctor's composure cracked. It lasted only a second. Then the mask returned. "I was not there." Poirot smiled. "Of course." After the interviews, Poirot returned to the murder suite. He stood alone beneath the warm chandelier. The room looked different now. The same desk, the same chair, the same fireplace, but the performances had changed everything. He examined the theatre ticket again. This time he turned it over. On the back, written in tiny blue ink, were 4 words: "The second act begins." Poirot stared at the message. Inspector Hassan approached. "What does it mean?" Poirot's expression became grave. "It means the murderer is not finished." A sound came from the corridor. A door slammed. Poirot turned. The ship suddenly seemed much smaller. Every corridor had become a passage between stages. Every passenger had become a potential actor, and every silence could conceal a line that someone was afraid to speak. Poirot looked toward the Nile. "Observe carefully, mon ami. Someone aboard this ship is no longer merely hiding a secret." He folded the ticket into his pocket. "They are directing the next scene." The players had entered, but who performed truth and who performed lies? Double three. The first act. The second morning aboard the SS, Aurelia began beneath a sky of flawless blue, but the atmosphere inside the ship had changed completely. The dining saloon still possessed all the elegance of the previous evening. Sunlight touched the polished mahogany, crystal glasses glittered beside crisp linen napkins, and the scent of strong coffee mixed with cigar smoke and fresh roses. Yet conversations were now quieter, and whenever a passenger entered the room, several pairs of eyes followed. The actors were beginning to forget that they were actors. Hercule Poirot sat alone at his usual table. He had arranged his breakfast with mathematical precision. Eggs, toast, coffee, marmalade, everything symmetrical. "Order and method," he murmured. Inspector Hassan approached. "You have discovered something?" Poirot looked up. "Mais oui." He tapped one finger against the table. "The first mask has cracked." Hassan sat opposite him. "Whose?" Poirot smiled. "That is what we are about to discover." The first clue came from the theatre ticket. Poirot had examined it repeatedly since the previous evening. The front appeared ordinary, but the paper itself was unusually thick. It was not the type normally issued at the Royal Theatre in Cairo. He sent for the ship's purser. The man examined it carefully. "This isn't from the theatre." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. Their tickets have a red border. This has gold. And where could it have come from?" The purser hesitated. "I don't know." Poirot turned to Hassan. "The murderer wanted us to believe Sir Julian had visited the theatre." "Why?" "Because the theatre was part of the performance." He held up the ticket. "The question is not where Sir Julian was. The question is where the murderer wanted us to believe he had been." That afternoon, Poirot called Eleanor Vale to his private sitting room. She entered, wearing a cream-colored dress and carrying gloves. Poirot gestured toward the chair. "Madame, yesterday you told me you came upon your husband's body shortly after 10. "Yes. Yet you told me something different earlier." She frowned. "I don't remember." "Ah." Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head. "You remember very well." Her expression hardened. "What do you want?" "The truth." She laughed bitterly. "The truth? On this ship?" "Precisely." Eleanor looked toward the window. The Nile passed beyond it, brown and shimmering beneath the afternoon sun. "I heard voices," she said. "Whose?" "Julian's." "With whom?" "I don't know." "You are certain it was his voice?" "Yes." "What did he say?" She hesitated. "Something about betrayal." Poirot became very still. "And then?" "I heard another voice." "Man or woman?" "A man." "Did you see him?" "No." "Then how do you know it was a man?" Eleanor looked at Poirot. Her eyes widened slightly. Poirot smiled. "The mask slips." She lowered her head. "I don't know." "You do know?" "No." Poirot waited. Eventually she whispered, "It was Charles Pembroke." Poirot thanked her and dismissed her. Inspector Hassan entered immediately afterward. "Do you believe her?" "Partly." "Which part?" "The part she regrets telling us." That evening, Poirot summoned Charles Pembroke. He arrived visibly uncomfortable. "I have nothing more to say." Poirot smiled. "That is unfortunate, because I have several things to say to you." Pembroke sat. Poirot placed the theatre ticket on the table. "You told me yesterday that you never saw it." "I didn't." "Then explain this." He turned the ticket over. The message was visible. "The second act begins." Pembroke stared at it. "I don't understand." Neither do I. Poirot leaned closer. But I believe you do. I don't. Poirot studied his face. The psychology. It is everything. Pembroke's fingers tightened. You are making a mistake, perhaps. Poirot stood and walked toward the window. Tell me, monsieur, why would a murderer leave a message announcing another act? Pembroke said nothing. Unless, Poirot continued, the message was not written by the murderer. Pembroke looked up. For the first time, genuine surprise appeared on his face. Poirot turned. Ah! The reaction was unmistakable. The mask had cracked. Who wrote it? Poirot asked. I don't know. But you recognized the handwriting. No. You recognized the phrase. Pembroke's face became pale. Poirot smiled sadly. You see, you have told me more by your expression than by your words. Pembroke rose abruptly. I must go, of course. He reached the door. Poirot's voice stopped him. Mr. Pembroke. He turned. Sir Julian was planning to change his will, wasn't he? Pembroke said nothing. That silence was enough. After he left, Hassan looked at Poirot. You knew. I suspected. What was the point? Poirot's expression became serious. Money. He returned to the desk. Money is one motive, but not the only one. He opened Sir Julian's business folder. Inside were shipping documents, investment records, and correspondence with companies across Europe. One name appeared repeatedly. Victor Marlowe. Hassan frowned. Who is he? Poirot studied the documents. An old business associate. Where is he? London. Could he be involved? Perhaps. Poirot paused. Then he noticed something. One of the letters had been folded twice. The others had been folded once. He opened it. Inside was a simple sentence. You cannot bury the past forever. There was no signature. Poirot read it twice. This murder, he said quietly, began long before the Nile. That evening, Poirot gathered Lady Beatrice, Marcus, Eleanor, and Dr. Bell in the lounge. The piano played softly in the background. Crystal glasses stood untouched. A fire burned behind the brass screen. Poirot stood before them. Each of you has told me a story. Marcus frowned. What is this? A rehearsal. Poirot walked slowly around the room. You all possess secrets. That is normal. Human beings are full of secrets. He stopped beside Lady Beatrice. But secrets become dangerous when they require lies. Lady Beatrice looked away. He turned to Marcus. You lied about your cigars. Marcus stiffened. Then Eleanor. You lied about hearing only one voice. Her face paled. Then Dr. Bell. You lied about the time you left your patient. The doctor stood. That's absurd. Bravo, Poirot said softly, but unconvincing. Everyone stared at him. Poirot smiled. Do not worry. I have not yet accused anyone of murder. He returned to his chair. I am merely showing you that the performances have begun to fail. That night, after the others had gone, Poirot remained alone. He examined the burned letter fragment recovered from the fireplace. Most of the words were gone, but one phrase remained visible. The girl from Alexandria. Poirot's expression changed. The girl. He remembered Nadia Karim, the young Egyptian art historian. She had said very little since the murder. Too little. Poirot looked toward the corridor. Ah, mon ami. He touched his moustache thoughtfully. We have been watching the wrong actors. The ship's lights reflected across the Nile. Somewhere above, footsteps crossed the deck. A door closed. Then another. Poirot listened. His eyes narrowed. The murderer's performance had begun to change, and now, for the first time, Poirot understood something important. The killer was not merely trying to escape justice. The killer was trying to control the story. But every story had a moment when the actor forgot the script, and Poirot intended to find that moment. The first act concluded. Some masks had cracked. More would follow. Chapter 4. Rehearsed lines. By the fourth morning aboard the SS Aurelia, the Nile had become strangely calm. The river moved beneath the ship like a sheet of dark glass, reflecting the pale morning sky. Warm sunlight entered through the dining saloon windows, touching polished mahogany, silver cutlery, and crystal glasses. Yet the passengers no longer enjoyed their breakfast. Every conversation stopped whenever Hercule Poirot entered the room. He had become the director of the drama, and the actors knew it. Poirot sat at his usual table, arranging his breakfast with meticulous precision. Inspector Hassan approached. "You have been awake all night? May we?" "Thinking about the murder." Poirot smiled. "Thinking about the performances." Hassan sighed. "You believe everyone is lying." "Everyone lies, Inspector. The question is why?" Poirot lifted his coffee. "Fear, pride, love, greed. Sometimes people lie to protect another person. Sometimes they lie because the truth would destroy the role they have built for themselves." He looked toward the dining room. "And sometimes, mon ami, a person lies because the truth would reveal murder." The first rehearsal began with Marcus Vale. Poirot summoned him to the observation lounge. Marcus entered confidently. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes." "About the inheritance? About the smoking room?" Marcus frowned. "I have already told you where I was." "Yes." "Then why ask again?" "Because yesterday you said you smoked 2 cigars. Marcus's expression hardened. "I made a mistake." "Naturally." Poirot opened a small notebook. "At what time did you light the first?" 9:30. "And the second?" 9:50. "Where were you at 10? "In the smoking room." Poirot looked up. "Then you should have heard the piano stop." Marcus stared. "What?" "The piano stopped at approximately 10. I didn't notice." "Interesting." Poirot leaned back. "Because the smoking room is directly beside the lounge." Marcus said nothing. "Everyone heard the piano stop," Poirot continued. "Even the steward in the dining saloon." Marcus swallowed. "Perhaps I was distracted." "By what?" "I don't remember." Poirot smiled. "Ah, another missing line." Marcus stood. "Are you accusing me?" "No." Poirot's voice remained gentle. "I am giving you an opportunity to correct your performance." Marcus stared at him. Then he said quietly, "I saw someone." "Who?" "I don't know." "You recognized the person?" Marcus hesitated. "Yes." "Who?" "Charles Pembroke." Poirot's expression did not change. "When?" "Shortly before 10. "Where?" "Near my uncle's corridor." "And why did you not mention this before?" Marcus looked away. "Because I didn't want trouble." Poirot nodded. "That is believable." Marcus left. Inspector Hassan entered. "You believe him?" "Some of it." "Which part?" "The fear." The next performance belonged to Charles Pembroke. He entered looking exhausted. Poirot gestured toward the chair. "You spoke with Marcus yesterday?" "No." "Do you know why he says he saw you near Sir Julian's cabin?" Pembroke went pale. "I wasn't there." "At 9:50? "No." "At 10? "No." "At 10:15? "No." Poirot watched him carefully. "You have become very precise." "I simply know where I was." "Excellent. Where?" "In my cabin." "Alone?" "Yes." Again. Pembroke looked confused. "What? You are alone in every important moment?" Poirot smiled. "Your alibi is becoming lonely." Pembroke said nothing. Poirot placed a document on the table. This was found among Sir Julian's papers. Pembroke glanced at it. His face changed. Only slightly, but Poirot noticed. "What is it?" "A business agreement." "With Victor Marlowe." Pembroke looked away. "You knew him?" "Yes." "How well?" "Very well." "Was Sir Julian afraid of him?" "I don't know." Poirot tapped the document. "Then why did Sir Julian write this beside his name?" Pembroke stared. There, in Sir Julian's handwriting, were 3 words. The Alexandria matter. Pembroke suddenly stood. I have nothing more to say. Poirot smiled. That is what guilty people often say when they have said too much. Pembroke left. Poirot remained still. Inspector Hassan entered. Did you see his face? Yes. He recognized the phrase. Exactly. What is the Alexandria matter? Poirot looked toward the river. That is our backstage. Later that afternoon, Poirot called Nadia Karim. She entered quietly. Unlike the others, she wore a simple cream dress. No jewelry, except a small silver bracelet. Her expression was calm, but her fingers remained tightly clasped. Poirot offered her tea. No, thank you. Coffee? No. Then perhaps we shall begin without refreshments. Nadia smiled faintly. You seem determined to know everything. Not everything. Poirot leaned forward. Only what matters. He placed the burned letter fragment before her. Nadia looked at it. Her face lost its color. Poirot noticed. You recognize it? No, too quick. She looked at him. I have never seen it. Poirot nodded. This performance, it is rehearsed. Nadia's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Truth hesitates when it is painful. Lies often arrive too quickly. She looked down. Poirot waited. Finally she whispered, Sir Julian knew my father. Poirot became very still. Your father? He died 12 years ago. How? Nadia hesitated. An accident. Where? Alexandria. The room fell silent. Poirot's eyes sharpened. Tell me about the accident. My father worked for one of Sir Julian's companies. There was a warehouse fire. And Sir Julian? He said my father had been responsible. Was he? No. The answer came with sudden emotion. My father was blamed because he was dead. He could not defend himself. Poirot studied her. And you came aboard this ship because? Nadia looked away. I wanted answers. Did you want revenge? She looked directly at him. No. Poirot smiled sadly. That was not quite the answer I expected. Because I have imagined killing him? Poirot said nothing. Nadia's eyes filled with tears. Yes. Did you? No. Good. Poirot's expression softened. Because imagining murder and committing murder are very different performances. Nadia stood. I did not kill Sir Julian. I believe you. She looked surprised. Why? Because your anger is genuine. She stared at him. That is why I believe you. After she left, Hassan entered. She had motive. Yes. She admits imagining his death. Yes. Then why trust her? Poirot smiled. Because her hatred has no mask. He turned toward the window. The dangerous person is not always the one who hates openly. He touched his moustache. It is often the person who performs love. That evening, another discovery was made. A steward found a woman's glove near the rear staircase. It was pale silk. Inside was embroidered a single initial, E. Eleanor. Inspector Hassan immediately went to Poirot. This changes everything. Poirot examined the glove. Does it? It belongs to Eleanor. Perhaps. You don't believe it. Poirot turned it over. There is dust on the outside. So? The staircase was cleaned yesterday morning. Hassan frowned. Then how did the glove become dusty? Poirot smiled. Exactly. He looked toward the staircase. Someone placed it there after the cleaning. A planted clue. Yes. By whom? Poirot's eyes narrowed. Someone wants us to accuse Eleanor. He paused, which means Eleanor is either innocent or the murderer is very clever. Poirot smiled. Precisely. That night, Poirot returned alone to Sir Julian's suite. The room was cold now. The fire had gone out. He stood beside the desk and reconstructed the evening in his mind. The letter, the theater ticket, the missing envelope, the burned paper, the false alibis, the glove. He moved the objects across the desk, one by one. Then he stopped. The theatre ticket. He turned it over. The message had disappeared. Poirot stared. Someone had removed the writing. He examined the paper carefully. A faint impression remained where the ink had been. He smiled. Ah, the message had not been destroyed. It had been transferred. Poirot looked toward the fireplace, then toward the balcony, then toward the locked door. Someone had entered this room after the police had searched it. Someone who knew what Poirot was looking for. The performance was becoming dangerous, and somewhere aboard the Aurelia, the murderer now understood that Hercule Poirot was getting close. Poirot closed his notebook. Rehearsed lines began to falter. He murmured, "The script is failing." And for the first time, he wondered whether the murderer would make another mistake before Poirot could force the curtain down. Rehearsed lines faltered. The script was failing. Chapter 5. The mask slips. The evening sun was sinking behind the Egyptian horizon when Hercule Poirot returned to the observation lounge. The SS Aurelia had become unusually quiet, as though the entire ship were holding its breath. Outside, the Nile reflected streaks of crimson and gold, while inside, the scent of polished wood, cigar smoke, and expensive perfume lingered beneath the soft glow of the lamps. Poirot stood before the window, with his hands clasped behind his back. The murder had changed. At first, it had appeared simple. A wealthy man killed aboard a luxury steamer, an inheritance, a suspicious wife, a jealous nephew, a disgruntled associate. But now the evidence pointed somewhere deeper. Someone had planted the glove. Someone had altered the theatre ticket. Someone had entered Sir Julian's suite after the police search, and someone was becoming frightened. Inspector Hassan entered. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes, Inspector." Poirot turned. "The time has come for the fifth act." Hassan looked uneasy. "What are you planning?" Poirot smiled. "To make one of our actors forget the script." That night, Poirot asked everyone to assemble in the main lounge. Eleanor Vale arrived first, then Marcus, Lady Beatrice, Dr. Bell, Giles Pembroke. Nadia Karim stood quietly near the fireplace. The atmosphere was tense. The piano had stopped. Only the ticking of the grandfather clock could be heard. Poirot stood in the center of the room. "Mesdames et messieurs," he said, "tonight we shall discuss the performance." Marcus folded his arms. "This is ridiculous." "Perhaps," Poirot smiled, "but murder is rarely ridiculous." He looked at Eleanor. "Madame Vale, you have performed grief." Eleanor's face tightened. "I have been grieving." "Yes," Poirot nodded, "but grief is not always what it appears." He moved closer. "Yesterday, a glove bearing your initial was found near the rear staircase. I told you it wasn't mine." "You did, and it isn't." Poirot smiled. "I believe you." Everyone looked surprised. Marcus stared at him. "Then why mention it?" "Because someone wanted us to believe it belonged to her." Poirot turned toward the others. The glove was planted after the staircase had been cleaned. Lady Beatrice frowned. "How could you know that?" "Because of the dust." Poirot held up the glove. There was fresh dust on the outside, but none beneath the stitching. He looked at Hassan. It had been placed there deliberately. Nadia spoke quietly. "To frame Eleanor." "Exactly." Poirot's eyes moved across the room. "Now ask yourselves, who benefits?" Silence. Marcus looked at Eleanor. Eleanor looked at Charles. Charles looked at the floor. Poirot noticed. The mask slips. Charles suddenly raised his head. "I have had enough of this." "Excellent." Poirot smiled. "Anger is often more revealing than fear." Charles stepped forward. "You are treating us like criminals." "One of you is a criminal. Then arrest someone." "Not yet." Poirot's voice became calm. Because I want the truth, not merely a suspect. He walked toward Charles. You lied about being in your cabin. I did not. You said you were alone. I was. Yet Marcus saw you near Sir Julian's corridor. Marcus is lying. Marcus stepped forward. I saw him. You saw someone. I know what I saw. Charles laughed bitterly. Then perhaps you should explain why you were wandering around the corridor yourself. Marcus froze. Poirot's eyes sharpened. Marcus looked away. You see, Poirot said softly, another line forgotten. He turned toward Marcus. Why were you there? I wanted to speak to my uncle. At 9:50? Yes. Why? Marcus hesitated. Because he told me he intended to change his will. Eleanor gasped. Lady Beatrice closed her eyes. Charles looked suddenly frightened. Poirot noticed. You knew. Charles said nothing. Poirot turned toward him. You knew Sir Julian was changing the will. No. Then why are you afraid? I am not. Your hands disagree. Charles looked down. His fingers were trembling. Poirot approached slowly. Consider the psychology, mes amis. What role does a person need to play? Nobody answered. Charles has played the role of loyal secretary, Poirot continued. Always helpful, always quiet, always near the documents, always aware of Sir Julian's movements. Charles shook his head. You cannot accuse me because I was his secretary. No. Poirot's expression hardened. I accuse you of lying because your performance has become too perfect. Charles suddenly shouted. I did not kill him. The room fell silent. Poirot did not move. He simply watched him. Then he said, Interesting. Charles realized his mistake. I never said you were the murderer. Charles's face drained of color. Marcus whispered, My God. Poirot turned to Hassan. You see, Inspector, the mask has fallen. Charles sank into a chair. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then Charles covered his face. I didn't kill him, he whispered. Poirot sat opposite him. Then tell us what you did. Charles lowered his hands. I lied. About what? I was in Sir Julian's suite. When? Before the murder. Why? Charles looked toward Eleanor. I had discovered something. What? A letter. Poirot leaned forward. What letter? Charles swallowed. One from Victor Marlowe. The name changed the atmosphere. What did it say? Charles looked terrified. It accused Sir Julian of stealing money 12 years ago. Nadia suddenly stepped forward. The Alexandria warehouse. Charles looked at her. You knew? My father died because of that accusation. Charles nodded slowly. Yes. Poirot's expression became serious. And what happened to the letter? I burned it. Why? Sir Julian ordered me to. Poirot stared at him. Then you entered his suite before the murder. Yes. Did you see anyone? Charles hesitated. I saw Eleanor. She gasped. When? At approximately 9:55. Eleanor shook her head. No. Charles looked at her. You were outside his door. I was looking for Julian. Why? She hesitated. Poirot watched her. Eleanor finally whispered, He had told me he was leaving me. The room fell silent. Poirot's expression softened. There. He turned toward the others. Now we have something genuine. Eleanor's composure collapsed. I was angry, she said. I was furious. I wanted to confront him. Did you? Yes. When? At 9:50. What happened? He told me everything was finished. Her voice broke. I left. Poirot watched her carefully. This time, the tears were real. Her shoulders trembled. The handkerchief in her hand became wet. Poirot nodded. The difference between performed emotion and genuine emotion. He turned toward Hassan. Now we know Eleanor lied. Hassan frowned. But she didn't kill him. No. How can you be certain? Poirot looked at Eleanor. because, when she spoke about leaving him, she cried. He pointed gently toward the handkerchief. Last night, she performed grief without tears. He looked around the room. Tonight, she has no reason to perform. Eleanor covered her face. For the first time, the room saw the woman beneath the mask. Poirot then turned toward Charles. You burned the letter. Yes, you lied about your movements. Yes, you concealed evidence. Yes, but you did not kill Sir Julian. Charles stared at him. How do you know? Poirot's green eyes gleamed. Because you made one very important mistake. What? You were afraid of the letter. Poirot paused. But the murderer was afraid of something else. Everyone waited. What? Poirot looked toward the locked doors of the lounge. The murderer is afraid that we will discover what happened in Alexandria. Nadia stepped backward. Lady Beatrice stared at her. Marcus looked toward Charles, and Poirot understood. The murder aboard the Aurelia had never truly begun with Sir Julian's death. It had begun 12 years earlier. A warehouse, a fire, a dead man, a stolen fortune, and a secret that had survived beneath the surface until it finally demanded another victim. Poirot looked toward the dark Nile. The mask had fallen. He spoke quietly. Beneath it, the true face at last. But he knew the truth was still incomplete. Because one actor had remained silent throughout the entire performance, and Poirot had finally decided to shine his spotlight upon her. Nadia Karim. The mask had fallen. The true face emerged. Chapter 6. Behind the Curtain. Night had settled over the Nile when Hercule Poirot returned to his cabin. The SS Aurelia moved steadily through the darkness, her engines producing a deep, rhythmic vibration beneath the polished floors. Beyond the windows, the river was almost invisible, while inside the ship the warm lamps, mahogany panels, velvet curtains, and faint scent of cigar smoke created the illusion of safety. But Poirot knew better. The performance had changed. Charles Pembroke had confessed to hiding the Alexandria letter. Eleanor Vale had admitted, confronting her husband before his death. Marcus had revealed that he expected Sir Julian to change his will. Yet none of them had killed him. There was still one actor behind the curtain, Nadia Karim. Poirot found her alone on the rear deck shortly after midnight. The air was cool, and the sound of water against the hull was almost hypnotic. Nadia stood beside the railing, staring into the darkness. "You knew I would come," Poirot said. She did not turn. "Perhaps," Poirot smiled. "Everyone aboard this ship has learned that word." Nadia finally looked at him. "What do you want?" "The truth about Alexandria." Her expression changed. "My father was innocent. I believe you." She looked surprised. "Then why are you questioning me?" "Because innocence and truth are not always the same thing." Nadia turned back toward the river. "My father worked for Sir Julian 12 years ago. There was a warehouse in Alexandria. One night, it caught fire. And your father was blamed?" "Yes." "Who blamed him?" "Sir Julian." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because money disappeared." "How much?" "A great deal." "Was it ever recovered?" "No." Poirot stood beside her. "And Victor Marlowe?" Nadia looked at him sharply. "You know his name." "I know many names." "Victor was Sir Julian's partner." "And your father?" "My father handled the accounts." Poirot was silent for a moment. "Then your father was the perfect person to blame." Nadia's voice became bitter. "Exactly." She explained that after the warehouse fire, Sir Julian had claimed her father had stolen company funds and attempted to destroy the evidence. The accusation ruined the man's reputation. Within months, he died under circumstances Nadia still believed had never been properly investigated. "Your father left anything behind?" "A diary." Poirot's expression sharpened. "Where is it?" Nadia hesitated. "On this ship." For several seconds neither spoke. Why did you bring it? Because Sir Julian knew what happened. Did he? Yes. Nadia reached into her handbag and removed a small leather notebook. Its cover was worn and cracked. Poirot did not touch it. May I? She handed it to him. The pages contained dates, numbers, initials, and short notes. Poirot turned page after page. Then he stopped. A name appeared repeatedly. C. Pembroke. Poirot looked up. Charles? I don't know what it means. Poirot continued reading. Another name appeared. B. Then another. E. And finally, the transfer must remain secret. Poirot's expression became thoughtful. What transfer? I don't know. What transfer? I don't know. You brought this diary aboard without knowing? I wanted Sir Julian to explain. Poirot closed it. And when did you first meet him on this voyage? 3 days ago. Before the murder? Yes. Did you threaten him? No. Did you tell him about your father's diary? No. Poirot studied her face. She was frightened, but not of him. Someone else knows about this diary, he said. Nadia nodded slowly. I think so. Who? I don't know. Poirot's eyes moved toward the dark corridor. Then we must discover who. The next morning, Poirot returned to Sir Julian's suite with Inspector Hassan. He placed the diary beside the business documents. The names suddenly formed a pattern. Victor Marlowe, Charles Pembroke, Sir Julian Vale, and one unexplained initial, B. Hassan frowned. Lady Beatrice? Perhaps. She was close to Sir Julian. Too close, perhaps. Poirot examined the financial documents. Several transfers had been made 12 years earlier. Money had moved from Sir Julian's company to an account in Switzerland. The amounts were enormous. Hassan stared. So the money really existed? Yes. And someone stole it? Not necessarily. Poirot pointed toward the dates. The transfers were authorized. By whom? Poirot tapped the signature. Sir Julian. Hassan looked confused. Then why accuse the accountant? Because the signature was forged. He held the document beneath the lamp. The pressure is wrong. Hassan stared. You can tell? Poirot smiled. Handwriting is a performance too. He compared the signature with Sir Julian's known writing. Look carefully. The final stroke is too deliberate. He pointed to the paper. The person who forged this signature knew how Sir Julian wrote, but not how he moved his hand. Poirot paused. That is the difference between imitation and reality. Suddenly the door opened. Lady Beatrice entered. She stopped when she saw the documents. What are you doing? Poirot looked at her. Examining the past. She became pale. What past? The Alexandria matter. Last. Silence. Poirot watched her. The mask slips. Lady Beatrice slowly closed the door behind her. I knew you would discover it. Hassan stepped forward. You know what happened? Yes. Then tell us. She sat down. I was there. Nadia entered the room moments later and stopped when she heard the words. At the warehouse? Lady Beatrice nodded. I was visiting Victor Marlowe. Nadia's face hardened. You knew my father. I knew him. Was he guilty? Lady Beatrice looked at her. No. Nadia's eyes filled with tears. Then why didn't you help him? Lady Beatrice looked down. Because I was afraid. Poirot's voice softened. Of whom? Sir Julian. Lady Beatrice explained that she had discovered the money transfers years earlier. Victor Marlowe had wanted to expose Sir Julian, but Sir Julian threatened him. When the warehouse burned, Lady Beatrice had witnessed an argument between the two men. There was another person there, she whispered. Who? She hesitated. Charles. Hassan frowned. Pembroke? Yes. Nadia stepped forward. My father trusted him. Lady Beatrice nodded. He did. Then why did Charles help Sir Julian? Because Charles was not always loyal to Sir Julian. Poirot's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Lady Beatrice looked directly at him. Charles was stealing from him. Silence. The revelation changed everything. Charles had not merely been Sir Julian's secretary. He had been part of the financial scheme. Perhaps he had forged documents. Perhaps he had stolen money. Perhaps the Alexandria fire had been designed to hide the theft. Poirot stood slowly. Behind every curtain, a secret. He looked at the documents, and behind every secret, a motive. But one question remained. If Charles had already confessed to hiding the letter, why had he not killed Sir Julian? Poirot knew the answer would be found in the missing money. He returned to the financial papers. One transfer caught his attention. It had been made only 2 weeks before the murder. The account belonged to someone aboard the Aurelia. Poirot read the name. His expression changed. Mon Dieu. Hassan leaned. The account belonged to Lady Beatrice Langford. Lady Beatrice closed her eyes. Nadia stared at her. Poirot said nothing. He simply watched. For the first time, Lady Beatrice's elegant composure completely disappeared. I can explain. Poirot nodded. Yes, madame. He picked up his notebook. That is what the 6th act is for. Outside, the Nile continued its silent journey. The ship remained beautiful. The guests remained elegant. But the curtain had been pulled aside, and behind it stood the real story. A story of stolen money, ruined lives, old loyalties, and a secret 12 years old. The theatre had become darker, and Poirot knew that the final act was approaching. Behind every curtain, a secret. Every secret, a motive. Chapter 7. The Final Act. The announcement came shortly after dinner. Every passenger aboard the SS Aurelia was requested to assemble in the Grand Lounge. The piano was silent. The crystal chandelier burned brightly above the room, illuminating polished mahogany, velvet curtains, and the uneasy faces of those who had been living through the same terrible performance for days. Outside, the Nile was black beneath the moon, and the warm night air slipped through the open windows. Hercule Poirot stood alone at the center of the room. He had arranged 6 chairs in a perfect semicircle. Inspector Hassan stood near the door. Eleanor Vale sat quietly. Marcus Vale appeared nervous. Dr. Adrian Bell kept his arms folded. Charles Pembroke stared at the floor. Lady Beatrice Langford looked exhausted. Nadia Karim stood near the window. Poirot glanced at them all. The cast is assembled. Marcus frowned. Why have you brought us here? Poirot smiled. Because, monsieur, the final act has arrived. Nobody spoke. Poirot walked slowly toward the center of the room. Mesdames et messieurs, you have each performed for Poirot. Some truthfully, some not. He stopped beside Eleanor. Madame Vale, you played the grieving widow. Eleanor lowered her eyes. The grief was partly genuine. Poirot continued. But you concealed something important. You argued with your husband shortly before his death, because he intended to leave you. Eleanor nodded. Yes, but you did not kill him. Marcus stared. How can you be sure? Poirot looked at him. Because she left the room alive, frightened and angry. Her tears afterward were genuine. He turned toward Marcus. Now, monsieur, your role. Marcus swallowed. You played the angry heir. I was angry, yes, but you also lied about where you were. Marcus looked away. You went toward your uncle's cabin because you wished to confront him about the will. Yes, you saw Charles Pembroke nearby. Marcus nodded. But you did not see him enter the suite. No. Poirot turned toward Charles. Now we come to you. Charles remained silent. You performed the loyal secretary. Poirot's voice hardened. Helpful, quiet, obedient. Charles raised his head. But loyalty does not explain forged financial documents. The room became still. Charles closed his eyes. I did not kill Sir Julian. Correct. Poirot nodded. But you stole from him. Charles looked toward Nadia. I was trying to recover what he had stolen from others. Nadia stepped forward. My father's money. Charles nodded. Yes, Poirot continued. You forged documents 12 years ago. You helped hide the truth about Alexandria. You burned the letter because you feared Sir Julian would expose you. Charles's voice broke. I was afraid. Fear. Poirot looked around the room. One of the oldest masks. He turned toward Dr. Bell. Doctor, you performed the calm physician. Bell's expression remained controlled. You gave us a time of death. Yes, and you were wrong. I made an estimate designed to protect your own alibi. Bell's face tightened. I was treating a patient. Yes, but you left that patient at 9:55. The doctor said nothing. Poirot continued. You entered the corridor. I did not. Then why does the steward remember seeing you? Bell's eyes widened. Poirot smiled. Because this actor has finally forgotten his line. Inspector Hassan stepped forward. Dr. Bell, did you enter Sir Julian's suite? Bell looked toward the floor. Yes. Marcus stood. You? Bell raised a hand. But I did not kill him. Poirot nodded. Correct. Bell explained that Sir Julian had summoned him because he had been suffering chest pains. The doctor examined him shortly before the murder and discovered that Sir Julian was terrified. Terrified of what? Poirot asked. He told me someone aboard the ship wanted him dead. Did he name the person? Bell hesitated. No. Poirot turned toward Lady Beatrice. And now, madame. Lady Beatrice looked exhausted. You played the loyal family friend. She said nothing. But you knew about Alexandria. Yes. You knew Sir Julian was responsible for destroying Nadia's father's reputation. Yes. You also received money from him. Lady Beatrice closed her eyes. It was not payment for murder. What was it? Protection. Poirot nodded. You were afraid. Yes. Yet you did something unexpected. He turned toward Nadia. You secretly helped Nadia obtain her father's diary. Nadia looked at Lady Beatrice. You did. Lady Beatrice nodded. I wanted the truth to survive. Poirot smiled. So another mask falls. He turned toward the final figure. Dr. Bell looked toward him. Charles looked toward him. Marcus looked toward him. Eleanor looked toward him. Nadia looked toward him. Poirot walked slowly toward the window. Then he turned. And so we come to our leading performer. His eyes settled upon Nadia. She froze. Marcus stared. Nadia? Poirot nodded. Yes. Nadia's face became expressionless. Poirot continued. You gave the most convincing performance of all. She whispered. No. The innocent young woman seeking justice. Poirot's voice was quiet. The grieving daughter. Nadia's hands trembled. The woman who openly admitted that she had imagined killing Sir Julian. She shook her head. I didn't. Poirot approached. You did not need to pretend hatred. He paused. Because your hatred was real. Nadia's eyes filled with tears. But hatred alone does not make a murderer. Poirot lifted a document. The transfer from Lady Beatrice's account was made 2 weeks ago. Lady Beatrice looked confused. Poirot continued. The money was not transferred to Nadia. He looked at Nadia. It was transferred from Nadia's hidden account. Hassan stared. You had an account? Nadia said nothing. Poirot stepped closer. The Alexandria money was never lost. He held up the diary. It was moved. Nadia finally spoke. My father saved it. Poirot nodded. Yes. The money belonged to him. Perhaps. But Sir Julian stole it. Yes. Nadia's voice broke. Then why should I not have taken it back? Poirot looked at her sadly. Because you did not stop there. Silence. Poirot placed another document on the table. A payment was made to the ship's steward on the night of the murder. Hassan's eyes widened. The steward? He was paid to leave the corridor unobserved. Nadia closed her eyes. Poirot continued. The theatre ticket was placed in Sir Julian's room to create confusion. The message on the back, written by Nadia. She looked up. Yes. Poirot nodded. She wanted us to believe there was another hidden enemy. Nadia began to cry. But the crucial mistake was not the ticket. Poirot's voice became softer. It was the glove. Everyone looked at Eleanor. Poirot shook his head. The glove was planted to frame Eleanor. He turned toward Nadia. You knew her glove size because you had borrowed one from her earlier. Nadia stared at him. You remember? I remember everything. Poirot stepped closer. Then there was the letter. Nadia's face collapsed. The letter Sir Julian received before his death, she whispered. He was going to destroy my father's name again. Poirot nodded. And you confronted him. Nadia began to tremble. You argued. Yes. You struck him. She closed her eyes. Yes. But that was not what killed him. Everyone stared. Poirot continued. Sir Julian had already been weakened by the drug placed in his champagne. Dr. Bell stepped forward. That is why the symptoms were strange. Poirot nodded. The drug caused the collapse. The letter opener was placed afterward to make the death appear violent. Nadia whispered, I didn't stab him. No. Poirot's expression hardened. You did not need to. He looked toward the doctor. Dr. Bell? The doctor stared at him. Sir Julian was dying when I left. Poirot nodded. And someone else entered afterward. The room fell silent. Poirot turned toward Charles. You? Charles shook his head. No, Lady Beatrice suddenly spoke. It was Victor. Poirot became still. Victor Marlowe. She nodded. He came aboard under another name. Hassan stared. But where is he? Poirot smiled. That is the final piece. He walked toward the door. The door opened. A man stood outside. Older, distinguished, his face pale. His eyes tired. Victor Marlowe. The entire room froze. Poirot looked at him. You have played the role of a dead man very well. Victor lowered his head. I never killed Sir Julian. Poirot nodded. I know. Then why bring me here? Because you were the one who placed the letter opener beside the body. Victor looked at the floor. Yes. Why? To make everyone believe Nadia killed him. Nadia stared at him. Victor's voice broke. Because Sir Julian destroyed my life too. Poirot slowly turned toward the gathered cast. The truth was now complete. Every actor had worn a mask. Every mask had hidden something. But only one person had tried to control the entire performance. Nadia. She had not struck the fatal blow, but she had orchestrated the circumstances, the drug, the ticket, the glove, the false message, the steward. She had created a theater of suspicion around herself. Poirot stepped into the center of the room. The performance is over. He looked at Nadia. You wanted justice. She wept. But you became what you hated. Nadia lowered her head. Inspector Hassan approached. Poirot turned toward the window. Outside, the Nile continued flowing beneath the moonlight. The final act had ended. The curtain fell. And only truth remained. Chapter 8. Curtain Call. The Grand Lounge was silent after Poirot's revelation. For several moments, nobody moved. The crystal chandelier continued to glow above them, and the polished mahogany furniture looked almost absurdly elegant beside the shattered lives that had just been exposed. Outside, the Nile flowed peacefully beneath the moon, indifferent to the drama that had unfolded aboard the Aurelia. Inspector Hassan approached Nadia. She did not resist. "I wanted justice," she whispered. Poirot looked at her sadly. "Yes, madame, but justice and revenge are not the same performance." Nadia lowered her head. The steward who had accepted her payment was questioned next. He admitted, allowing her access to the corridor and helping create the false timeline. The theater ticket, the planted glove, and the mysterious message had all been designed to make the investigation point toward Eleanor. Eleanor stood quietly nearby. "I hated you for a moment," she told Nadia. "I know, but I understand why you did it." Poirot watched them carefully. This was no longer theater. These were real emotions. The mask had disappeared. Charles Pembroke also confessed the full extent of his involvement in the old Alexandria affair. He had helped conceal the financial records, but he insisted that he never intended Sir Julian's death. Lady Beatrice gave Hassan the remaining documents, proving that Nadia's father had been wrongly accused. At last, the truth of Alexandria could be restored. Inspector Hassan looked toward Poirot. "What happens now?" "Justice begins." The authorities would arrest Nadia for her part in the conspiracy, while Victor Marlowe and Charles Pembroke would face questioning over the financial crimes connected to the old affair. Lady Beatrice would testify, and Eleanor would inherit far less than she had once expected. Marcus, meanwhile, stood alone beside the window. "My uncle's fortune was never what I thought it was," he said. Poirot nodded. "Money often appears larger from a distance." Marcus gave a bitter smile. "And now? Now you discover what remains when money disappears." The young man looked toward the Nile. Perhaps, Poirot thought, that was the beginning of his transformation. The Aurelia continued toward Cairo. Dinner was served that evening, but the atmosphere had changed. The piano played softly once again, yet nobody applauded. Conversations were subdued, and passengers who had once laughed together now watched one another with uncomfortable caution. The elegant stage had been dismantled. There were no masks left. Eleanor no longer performed grief. Charles no longer performed loyalty. Lady Beatrice no longer performed indifference. Marcus no longer performed confidence. And Nadia could no longer perform innocence. Poirot stood alone on the promenade deck. The cool night air touched his face. The scent of the river mingled with cigar smoke drifting from the lounge, while the ship's engines hummed beneath his feet. Inspector Hassan joined him. "You solved it." Poirot smiled. "No, Inspector." He looked toward the black water. "They solved it themselves." Hassan frowned. "What do you mean?" Every lie created another contradiction. Every mask required another mask. Eventually, the actors could no longer remember which role they were playing. Poirot adjusted his moustache. The truth did not need to chase them. He smiled. It simply waited. Behind them, the ship's final lights reflected upon the Nile. The murder investigation was over, but the consequences had only begun. No applause followed the performance, no celebration, no triumphant music, only justice. The curtain call came. No applause for this performance, only justice. Chapter 9. The Last Secret. The morning after the murder investigation ended, the SS Aurelia seemed like an entirely different ship. Sunlight poured across the Nile, turning the water into ribbons of gold. Passengers moved quietly along the decks, speaking in low voices about the events of the previous nights. The elegant steamer was still beautiful, but the atmosphere of carefree luxury had disappeared. Hercule Poirot stood alone near the railing. Inspector Hassan joined him. "You are leaving the ship when we reach Cairo?" "Yes, Inspector." Hassan smiled. "Another mystery waiting for you?" Poirot looked across the river. "Perhaps, but mysteries are everywhere, mon ami. One does not need to search for them." Behind them, Nadia was being escorted away by officers. She stopped briefly and looked toward Poirot. "I am sorry," she said. Poirot nodded. "Remember, madame, regret is useful only when it teaches us something." Nadia lowered her eyes and continued down the corridor. Poirot remained silent. He felt no satisfaction. Solving a murder was not a victory when innocent people had been destroyed long before the crime occurred. Later, Eleanor approached him. "I wanted to thank you." Poirot smiled. "For what?" "For believing me. You were not entirely truthful, I know. But you were not a murderer." She looked toward the river. "I thought money would make me happy. And now? Now I think peace is worth more." Poirot nodded approvingly. Marcus joined them. "I have decided not to contest my uncle's entire estate." Poirot raised an eyebrow. "An honorable decision." "I don't know about honorable." Marcus smiled faintly. "I simply don't want my future built upon his mistakes." Poirot looked at the young man. "Then perhaps something good has come from all this." A bell sounded from the upper deck. Cairo was approaching. The journey was nearly over, but before Poirot left, Inspector Hassan brought him one final envelope. It was found among Sir Julian's personal belongings. Poirot examined it. There was no name, only one sentence written across the front. "For Hercule Poirot." Poirot opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was Sir Julian's. Poirot read the message. It contained no confession, no accusation, only one sentence. "The greatest danger is not the person who wants revenge, but the person who believes revenge is justice." Poirot read it twice. Then he folded the paper. Hassan looked at him. "What does it mean?" Poirot sighed. Perhaps Sir Julian understood the danger too late. He looked toward the river. The Nile stretched endlessly ahead. The ship moved toward Cairo, carrying away the final traces of the tragedy. Poirot adjusted his hat. "Come, Inspector." "Where?" "To the breakfast table." Hassan laughed. "After everything?" "Especially after everything." They walked toward the dining saloon. For the first time in days, the piano played a cheerful melody. The passengers began talking again. Life was returning to the Aurelia. But Poirot knew that no one aboard would ever forget what had happened. The murder had begun with wealth, continued through secrets, and ended with revenge. Yet the most important lesson had nothing to do with the murderer. It was about the masks people wore. Some wore masks to hide guilt. Others wore them to hide pain. And some wore them because they had forgotten who they truly were beneath them. Poirot sat at his table and carefully arranged his breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee, everything perfectly aligned. Inspector Hassan smiled. "Order and method?" Poirot's moustache lifted slightly. "Always." Outside, the Nile continued its ancient journey. The SS Aurelia sailed toward Cairo, and as the first buildings appeared on the horizon, Poirot looked once more at the glittering river. The stage was empty now. The actors had gone. The curtain had fallen. Only the truth remained. And somewhere beyond the Nile, another mystery was waiting. Poirot smiled. Let us see what the next act brings. Chapter 10. The journey continues. Cairo appeared on the horizon, beneath the soft morning sun. The SS Aurelia moved steadily toward the harbor, her white decks shining in the early light. After everything that had happened, the ship seemed strangely peaceful. Hercule Poirot stood alone on the promenade deck. The Nile flowed beside him, ancient and silent. Behind him, the passengers were preparing to leave. Some would return home. Some would face the consequences of their actions. And some would never again look at wealth, friendship, or loyalty in quite the same way. Inspector Hassan joined Poirot. "You seem thoughtful." I am always thoughtful. Hassan smiled. About the case? About people. Poirot looked toward the distant city. That is the difficulty with murder, Inspector. The crime may end, but the human story does not. Hassan nodded. Nadia would face justice for her role in the conspiracy. Charles would answer for his financial crimes. Victor would finally have to confront the past he had spent years avoiding. Lady Beatrice would testify about Alexandria, and Eleanor and Marcus would begin again without Sir Julian's shadow controlling their lives. The ship slowly entered the harbour. A bell rang. Passengers gathered their luggage. The elegant journey was over. Poirot returned to his cabin and collected his small suitcase. Before leaving, he looked once more at the room where he had spent the nights reconstructing the murder. The objects were gone. The papers had been collected. The secrets had been exposed. Only silence remained. He smiled. Order and method. Then he walked toward the gangway. At the entrance, Hassan waited. One last question. Poirot raised an eyebrow. Yes? Did you ever doubt yourself? Poirot considered the question. Of course. Hassan looked surprised. Poirot smiled. Only a fool never doubts himself. They stepped onto the dock. Cairo surrounded them with noise and movement. Carriages passed, porters shouted, and the air carried the scents of dust, coffee, spices, and the river. Poirot stopped for a moment. He looked back at the Aurelia. The magnificent steamer seemed almost peaceful now. Yet he knew what had happened aboard her. A murder had exposed an older crime. An old crime had created revenge, and revenge had created another tragedy. The chain was finally broken. Hassan offered his hand. Until we meet again, Monsieur Poirot. Poirot shook it. Until the next mystery. Hassan smiled. Poirot turned toward the city. He walked slowly, his polished shoes tapping against the pavement, his moustache perfectly arranged, his mind already moving toward the next puzzle. Behind him, the Aurelia prepared to continue her voyage. Ahead of him waited Cairo, and somewhere beyond Cairo, another secret was waiting for the little Belgian detective with the extraordinary moustache. Poirot smiled to himself. Every journey, he murmured, has another story. Then he disappeared into the morning crowd. The Nile continued flowing behind him. The curtain had fallen on one mystery, but for Hercule Poirot, the stage was never empty for long.